I'd like to remind those present that items 4 on the agenda is a public hearing item to discuss the comprehensive plan. If you wish to speak to this item, you may do so by coming to the podium, stating your full name and address, including zip code, clearly for the record, and you will be permitted to speak for up to 5 minutes. Item number 5 on the agenda is our general public comment period, which is provided for comments by citizens regarding any matter related to commission business that is not on the agenda for public hearing tonight. Speakers will be permitted up to 3 minutes in that comment period, and should yield the floor when the clerk indicates that your time has expired. And in that session, there's to be no dialogue between the speaker and the commission. The first order of business is we have is adoption of the January 14th work session and regular meeting minutes as amended. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And let's move into, and I do want to make a note that the November 12th work session minutes have been prepared. We received those, I think, earlier this week, and we'll vote on those at our next meeting, so you have time to make any edits that you have. The first item, number 4, is the public hearing item on the comprehensive plan, where the Planning Commission will consider our final draft of the updated plan, which will guide the physical development of the city. And are there any comments, or Mr. Nelson, do you have any comments for the commission?
Just in very quickly, the draft has been submitted, it's been made available to the public. We've received some very good comments, some which you have copies tonight. So it's ready for public hearing at this point, and then we would incorporate those in the next couple of weeks and move this along for your meeting later this month. Next month.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
And your recommendation is that we would take final action on February 25?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Are there any questions for staff or additional comments before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, let's open the public hearing. If you'd wish to speak to item 4, the comprehensive plan, please come to the podium. State your full name and address for the zip code, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Paula Chow, and I'm at 22401,
What's your street address?
132 Caroline.
Thank you.
I first would like to compliment the Planning Commission for its work on the comprehensive plan. I think it's a really nice document. I would like to make a comment about the generality of the comprehensive plan. While I do realize it needs to be a general document, I'm concerned about particular areas where generalities are definitely subject to interpretation. My specific concern is in the area of recycling under the sustainable policy action areas. Under number 1, and I hope I was looking at the right the pages, but it said encourage public and private efforts to reduce the volume of solid waste that needs to be placed in landfills. I am concerned about the word encourage. I really would like to see this document definitively address recycling, whereas I think government entities, as well as the schools, especially the schools, should be, if not the word required, but should actively pursue a recycling program with stated goals. And that's the comment I have.
Thank you, Ms. Chow.
Evening. My name is Megan Cotter. I'm the director of Micah Ecumenical Ministries, which is a nonprofit here in the city of Fredericksburg that works with the homeless. I also am a proud resident of 1222 Brent Street in the College Heights neighborhood, personally as well. So I'm here tonight. Certainly, I applaud the efforts that have gone forth to put forth the comprehensive plan, and I am really very proud to be able to stand here and be proud of the city for a lot of the work that's gone in over the last couple years to take care of the community's least, our neighbors in need, my particular interest being that of the homeless population. I tend to be one that really appreciates words, however, and I think if there's any place that we want to emphasize taking care of our least, of our homeless, of any person in need in our community, would be the comprehensive plan. I've submitted some comments in writing. I don't know whether they've made it to you quite yet, but
They have.
Good, I'm getting nods, wonderful. But I just wanted to come and reiterate those comments and emphasize just, I think there's some really important ways that you all can look at having this plan speak to a social conscience and what the city is about, and that it's important to the city to take care of people in need in some different ways. I've offered up a couple different ways. I think there's some very simple solutions. If you talk about affordable housing, let's make sure it talks about our efforts for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing and some of those things that are really crucial to other communities that are ending homelessness, and I believe we're going to end homelessness in the city of Fredericksburg and the surrounding counties. So speaking to that in the plan is really important. Looking at productive ways to address some of the areas that are high crime, high poverty areas with not necessarily poverty matters. Look at that again. I always love to get up and say homelessness in this community by 49%. Today with the crime count, and I declines in those numbers again. Speaking to that in the plan is really important to us as the faith. And then looking at ordinances, looking for ways that at what those ordinances mean for things and ways that we can, what's really going on behind people might be trespassing or of those different things. So you have my comments to you and emphasize that.
Thank you, Ms. Cotter.
Hi, my name is Lucy Lawless. I Augustine Avenue, 22401, but I'm also the Pittsburgh and Spotsylvania now. I also want to sort of echo the compliment, what a wonderful, and the fact that it even has innovation, and that's really what I'm here to address tonight. We comments today, but I just want on the eve of the National Park is in 2016. It's also the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the Park Preservation Act. Tonight, I don't think there are many other cities that had an 87-year and one that is based in historic preservation. And I think if you read our comments, there are many, but the theme of those comments is really to provide the most positive and communicate to the community here how important the historic foundation of the Fredericksburg is. That not just the Civil War stories that we are here to tell the public and to share with them, but that, I mean, you know better than I do that the city of Fredericksburg dates itself to a prehistoric, a Native American community who was sort of encountered by Captain John Smith right here at the Rappahannock River at the Fall Line in Fredericksburg. And so there's centuries of historic properties that reach beyond a building fabric, that there are landscapes and all kinds of historic properties that the city could be concerned about. And just, I think, again, the thing that is most concerning to us is just the tone in the preservation, in the comprehensive plan and the historic preservation chapter, that it's something that I think the community does embrace because Fredericksburg wouldn't be an active community is to live in and to visit. I think the tone set out tells the public about, and we just offer the fact that both here as the park, Register of Historic Places, the National Historic Landmark. It's really a partnership with, a unique partnership with the city that we are here to help facilitate. So thank you for letting me stand up and speak, and thank you for the plan.
Thank you, Ms. Lawless.
Good evening. My name is Ann Little. I live at 726 Williams Street, downtown. First of all, I want to thank the Planning Commission for your time and really putting in the work to do this. I know it's a lot of work, and it's been a long time coming, so I appreciate it, and I also appreciate the staff's effort on this. I did some comments to Eric Nelson yesterday. He had shared with me, as I'm chairman of the Clean and Green Commission, so he had shared with me the part on the sustainable living community, and I think it's a great start, and I think it's really going to add to the document. I would like to suggest that there's an organization at the University of Mary Washington called CLEAR. It's Climate, Environmental, and Readiness Plan. They're working on a number of initiatives that focus on 5 major goals: diversifying the regional economy with more green jobs, identifying sustainable activities that save homeowners and business money, protect private property by creating and coordinating plans for floods and severe weather emergencies, and sustaining local resources and open spaces, and build resiliency through prevention and planning. I would like to suggest that possibly the CLEAR plan could be taken a look at one last time, and making sure that all of those elements are in the plan. I also sent some notes to Mr. Nelson about the land use section. I noted most of the areas, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10 especially could use more trees for various reasons: stormwater mitigation, air quality issues, traffic calming, to name a few. And some of those areas, especially along the Route 95 corridor, would be good to have more trees for air quality. That's the Idlewild and Great Oaks section, as well as the preserve, and also for stormwater mitigation, because those areas have been just pretty much stripped clean of trees, and so the neighborhoods are adding to a great deal of water from those areas at this point into our watershed. I also want to say yay for putting the alleys into the comp plan. Thank goodness that we've got that. And I also would like to endorse the elimination of one-way streets. Starting with Amelia and William Street, I think would be a great start. I know that there's been talk from the Amelia Street residents, now that we're building down there more. A lot of them have expressed concern about how fast the traffic goes on that street, and I think it would be behoove us to take another look at that. And I realize that delivery trucks are an issue, but other cities manage to manage their delivery trucks. And I happen to live on William Street right near Washington Avenue, and that becomes a speedway as soon as they hit that area because it's so wide open. Wide open streets do not make for safer streets. They just make for faster pedestrians or dead pedestrians. So I'd like to really see us go back to that. I'd like to, as the chairman of the Clean and Green Commission, I also like to ask you to look at the recycling section one more time and maybe beef it up just a little bit more. I would like to see expanding recycling to multifamily and rental unit complexes, mandating recycling at all of these sites would really add to our rate. Right now we're doing one of the best recycling in the state of Virginia. We're about 44%, but we could really take a major step by incorporating these multi-units. Stormwater, I'd like to see us possibly take a look at that. I know Kathy Harrigan is here. You going to speak? Yeah, so she'll speak to that. Walkability, yay, thank you for doing that. There's a lot of research on that, and the walkable community is one of my Bibles, so I encourage you to take a look at that. Pocket parks, I'd like to see you highlight those just a little bit more. Again, that's the small little green spaces that we've got around the city. There's one right by the train station. There's one by Wolf Street and Lafayette. There's one right across from the tennis courts, and they're all around the city. And those pocket parks are sometimes the only local park for a lot of neighbors. So I'd like to see us focus on them. You mentioned something about lighting. I'd like, perhaps if you could reference dark sky standards. Darksky.org is a good site for that. And then the last thing I'd like to say is, if there's any way we could put in there an encouragement to retrofit existing parking lots with shade trees for stormwater mitigation. Thank you for all the tree insertions in the plan. I really appreciate that. We're starting to see some differences here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Little. Are there any other speakers to the item?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Harrigan. I'm the Executive Director from Friends of the Rappahannock. Our offices are located at 3219 Fall Hill Avenue. I'm also a resident of the city at 1309 Payne Street. I'd like to applaud the livable community concept in the plan, and particularly the triple bottom line that you've added in there. The concept of social, environmental, and economic welfare being causally linked is really important. And this city has many great assets, but I'd ask you to consider that the river is really your distinguishing asset. Other communities are historic, other communities are artistic. We have a really fabulous river, and you're here at that point of transition from tidal and free-flowing. It happens here. So you've done a great job in protecting the river. The easement was a fabulous way of getting there. The work towards getting the Embry Dam down also. Keep it heading in that direction. So to guard, to strengthen a couple of different places, language, your policies, your initiatives. Piece. You talk about public integrating that into that. You really need a strong public off the road, and you make it livable and people can walk, but they need to be able to have those nodes of transportation within the city, within Planning District 16, and as a commuter zone. That reduces pollutants. It reduces our need for roads. You also have really road issues. You've got some big major projects in there, but I also would love you to stress you can't just look within the city. I know this is the city's comp plan, but we are downstream of many regional neighbors and many, many regional big transportation projects. The Rappahannock Parkway is one. The potential bridge crossing over the river, that's another one. And you've got an easement, you've got a river that you've invested in protecting. And so I would say, remember to guard against those, protect your river. It's your river. Protect it and guard against the influence of pollutant loads coming from those projects, which are bringing sediment and nitrogen and phosphorus down to your portion of the river. Guard against that and protect your scenic views. You've invested a tremendous amount of money and effort into those scenic views on that easement. Remember to keep that in mind as you work with your upstream neighbors on all of these regional projects. It's not just within the city that you have a responsibility to. The public facilities and preserved land piece. Investing in your capital improvement plan is really important. Meeting that TMDL, that is a very vital piece. It's a compliance issue, so you're required to do it on a couple of fronts, your wastewater plants and your stormwater piece. But a healthy river, better for ecotourism and just tourism in general than an impaired river. That doesn't sell very well in the brochures. So meeting the TMDL has a couple of really vital pieces. So again, reducing the nitrogen load, reducing the phosphorus load, reducing the sediment load, wherever, whenever you can. But your facilities need money. The wastewater treatment plant needs money, the stormwater people need money, and being able to say that you believe in investing in that is really important. Studying it, understanding what you need, understanding the capacity needs, all of that is really important too. But I would say that when you do that, really look to what conservation gets you too. Because if people can conserve the water that they use, if we're really good stewards of our water resources, then we don't spend the energy and the money in building extra capacity and pumping water around the city to get it into homes and to treat it at the other end. So really understand what conservation can get you, again, in that capacity assessment. But definitely fund the fact that you need the infrastructure. And then as far as open space, You have to protect assets, but you need to know where they are. And so I'm going to point out a couple of assets that you identify in your plan on a specific level. So in Planning Zone 1, you've got a 1A segment that's talking about planned mixed use with river views. You've already invested a tremendous amount of time and energy in protecting the view from the river, maintaining that view that the river has to keep it scenic. And so here is a category that's saying, we want to have mixed-use development with river views of that piece. It's a little inconsistent from what you've done in the past, and I, for one, applaud the from the river view perspective. For 2BR2, this is a piece of property that spans across the canal. You talk about preservation of the eastern portion of it, the riverbank portion of it. That is really important to keep that floodplain in preservation for a couple of reasons. It's adjacent to our 12.5 acres in conservation easement. So identifying an asset that can maintain a contiguous piece of property in conservation is really important. The upland piece, you're talking about increased density. You've invested in that canal path, you're investing in 2D, which is the park. It's really important to make sure that the piece in between, you're making your assets valuable. And so I would say really look about not increasing density on the upland portion of 2B and really pushing for preservation on the floodland portion of 2B. It really, again, identify the assets you have and work to protect them. You've
30
invested in the river,
seconds.
keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harrigan. Are there any other speakers to the public hearing item on the comprehensive plan? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and Mr. Pates.
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering that Ann Little, when she spoke this just now, said that she had submitted some written comments to Mr. Nelson, and I was wondering if those could be included and attached to our minutes.
Is that possible?
Sure. It's a page with some track changes on there, relatively minor. But then those were corrected over the telephone, so it would probably be more logical to give you the corrected page, underline what we amended, which reflects, what was provided.
Okay. Other comments or questions from the commission? None?
Jim,
I'm sorry?
this,
Go ahead.
Mr. Dines?
so I'm still in the position that I've been for quite some time on the comprehensive plan. I think it has a tremendous amount of valuable content. I think it is, it expresses a number of visions, many of them very, very good and beneficial to the city and to the residents. I remain with having concerns about the lack of precision in a lot of the language and the ability of the comprehensive plan to be used to justify things that we would not intend it to be used. And this is former Mayor Beck actually came to this commission, all right, and expressed that view with specifics on just one section regarding historical preservation. And so my concern is, and I've used these words before, is that this will become a two-edged document for the city and for the residents. And as long as this document is in the position where somebody can pick and choose which portions and which words and which sentences they wish to justify a particular proposal, then we're going to be in the position of having to reinterpret the document over time, and not just us, and that ourselves and the city council would be put in the position of having to reinterpret the document and looking at it from the point of view of somebody who's proposing something that, today we might say is out of scope, and tomorrow could be judged as in scope. So For that reason, while I value the content a great deal, I have a lot of concerns over what the implementation of this would look like to the commission. I strongly prefer to have something where the means by which a proposal would be judged will have a smaller set of things to work against, and so that people can't just randomly reach in, pull out a sentence out of it and say, my proposal meets the comp plan because it meets this one line. And that's precisely the position we find ourselves in right now with the existing comprehensive plan, and that's the position we'd find ourselves with this comprehensive plan. I feel pretty firmly that we need some different structure on it, perhaps overlaid on top of it, of the existing one, that would enable us to have a rational basis and a repeatable basis for judging proposals for rezoning. This document is the one executable document that's produced by the commission. This is the one document that can be used to justify or deny a zoning change. Right? This is the comprehensive plan. Everything hangs off of this. Some mistakes made at this level tend to last a long time. 50 years, 100 years. And I feel very strongly that this draft in its current form would perpetuate flaws that we should not be perpetuating.
Mr. McAfee.
It's always good to have fresh eyes and new blood on documents and in the process, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Dine. I would say that double edge could also be interpreted as open for avenues. Part of the job of the government is to get out of the way and let some things happen. And I think these type of plans are general plans that are never perfect. They're never the way we really want them to be. I mean, I've been at this for 8 years, and I've never seen anything perfect come out of here. Never seen a perfectly written ordinance. And it's up to these bodies to sit and then judge. And I think if we judge by the past comprehensive plan that we've been working with for the past few years, we can see great progress and great moves forward, and in general, consensus agreement about having acted on what was the consensus plan of the community. This new document embraces more consensus. It updates. It is, in fact, a living, breathing document. It doesn't stick around forever. It's updated by law on a regular basis. That's why we're here tonight. It affords the city some, I guess instead of double-edged, the word I was looking for is flexibility. Flexibility to decide at the moment about particular projects and things. And I've never seen any one particular project come in here and pull out one sentence and we all fell on the sword for it. We sit here and we make judgments as human beings about the document, and we make our recommendations, and then City Council does the same with even more information and input from the city. So while I appreciate the fact that it's not perfect and you can't use it as some type of remote control document to make a decision without people's input and judgments from this body, and that it's not going to stand forever and it's going to need to be updated all the time, I would say that this, having looked at comprehensive plans for longer than I really wanted to initially when I decided to do this, but now I'm kind of hooked on it. I would say that this is one of the best that I've seen in the state of Virginia. We were leaders with our last comprehensive plan and putting goals and initiatives to it, and I believe we've taken the lead here. Issues about sustainability and walkable, and I think that it is that it will not stand forever, and there will be disagreements about what it means. But I think in the end, it's that consensus community has asked us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAfee.
Yeah, I mean, that the devil can cite scripture, and unless there's something totally egregious document with it, at least very soon, what Eric needs to needs to do. I think it's a pretty very good roadmap for what the city needs to do over the next 5 or 6 years, or when we.
Thank you, Mr. Beavers. Other comments?
Yes, yes, I wanted to make a couple comments. First of all, to hear from this evening several important constituencies in the city, and I would hope that that we could follow up on some of these things, and I would encourage the speakers and anyone else listening to this or watching this, that the more specific comments that we could have from you, say for instance, the topic of recycling came up. Well, if you could suggest some specific language for us, I think that would be very helpful. I think the Micah Ministries has some very good points. I think that Megan was correct in saying that the comprehensive plan, being comprehensive in nature, should speak to the social conscience of the city and to speak to those portions of the community that are usually not well represented and don't come out and speak, but whose needs are just as great or greater than everyone else's. And so I would encourage the faith community in the city to come forward and offer some specific ideas to us, and I think the Commission would be very receptive to that. Likewise with FOR, if you have some specific proposals, I think we would be very interested in hearing what those are, because we're getting sort of to the end of the process now, and so we're talking about specific proposals and specific language. So anything that you can pass along would be greatly appreciated. Like Mr. Dines, I'm also concerned about, particularly about the goals in the plan. From our discussions with Milt Hurd and among ourselves, I think there's a lot that could be done to tighten up, reduce the number of goals, and that's not always easy to do. And since we are anxious to move forward with this process and not have it go on interminably, it's already been a year, which is a long time to work on something like this, I would suggest that we possibly think about forming a committee to work between now and the end of February to look at all the goals that have been outlined in the comp plan so far. I didn't count them, but I'm sure it's over 40. Just the goals, that's without the policies and the initiatives. But to form a little group to look specifically at the goals, to try to revise them, tighten them up, and get a sense, and probably to reduce the number somewhat, because in some of the chapters I think they're very good, and others they're really kind of, some of them are so vague as to be meaningless. And I think if we're going to have them, they ought to have some meat and content to them, so that when we have applications and we are looking at different issues, that they are able to serve as some kind of guide for us. And so I would propose that we form a committee tonight of no more than 3 possibly members of the Commission to meet between now and the end of February, and to come back to the Commission, taking the goals that we already have and to revise them and reorder them so that they can be in a shape to finalize in February.
Are there any other comments? We'll come back to the, have you made, is that a motion? You're making a motion to make a committee?
Well, I will.
Like, okay, let's see who else wants.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Mr. Johnson?
Go ahead.
Ms. Kynan?
I would just agree with everything that's been said. It's a good document that we're continued to working on. It's been a year, so I think another couple weeks wouldn't hurt to make sure that we've sort of vetted out everything we'd like to. I would be more than happy if the commission agrees to something like this, to be a part of that if needed. I think it's been asked of us by council as well to make sure that we do shore up our goals and initiatives and make them. So I too would agree perhaps if we could reduce them, that would be helpful to the overall plan. So I would agree.
And I'd like just to add, I think that it's important that we do this at this point almost every time, is to thank the commission, because I think we've read this document many times at this point in various forms, and the staff, especially Eric Nelson, for your efforts. I mean, and we really have been at this for over a year from that first joint meeting with the EDA and the City Council to go over this. And to Mr. Dine's comments, I want to remind everyone that the goal of the plan is to be general in nature. And while there are many specifics in it, I think most of us would challenge anyone that didn't take into account the entire document before making a decision. Well, there are certainly points that could advocate for one project and other points that might not for another. The goal, or our job and the City Council's job, is to read the entire document and take all that into account, as well as public comment before making a decision. And regarding the goals, I do believe that it probably would be helpful, I think, for the people that will be in these chairs in the future to reduce the number of goals. However, and I think that we talked about this at our last work session, I think that specifically one glaring goal that is missing, and I'm talking about adding a goal, is a goal regarding affordable housing. But I would be fine with a committee moving forward to look at the goals more closely and to propose some changes. But am very mindful of the length of time that the staff has already put into this, and that all of us have already as well, to ensure that we can still vote on a final plan at our February 25th meeting.
One more, sorry.
Ms.
One more
Kynan.
addition.
Mr. Jones.
I did want to thank everyone for coming and giving comments. It really does help us. And the information that was submitted, I would like time for us to, since we did get them at the last hour, whether it be a work session between now and then, or some other way of communication, that we can go through these documents and really do a good job at adding or including what is appropriate. Thank you.
Mr. Dines.
So maybe Mr. Pates has brought a couple things into the focus for me, if not for us. The statement of the goals is critically important, and collecting them and organizing them and prioritizing them will make it much easier for the people who are sitting in these chairs in the future, all right, to take anything that's proposed and reflect it, in a way that's repeatable, and so that people on the other side also understand how we would look at a proposal against those goals. So I like his suggestion. It's a good idea. I think it brings of the document is and I'd actually like to staff the effort to more than one person. Eric Nelson has done be honest about it. Do it as his opus, because obviously it's about of heart document, and it's clear to anybody who reads it. It will work. I think it's important work. And so thank you.
Pates.
Then
I would urge that as the commission moves forward and does one last lot, that it be the entire commission has kind of look at it, involved in that discussion, and we certainly have time to do it. It's easy enough to goals into one list. I think Eric's probably halfway together, because we're doing that concept of putting all the goals right at the very beginning. So the list, I think, is going to be readily available out to everybody in the next day or two. And your next regular meeting is on February 11th. I've communicated to some of you, there aren't regular items to be considered, so the date is open for a work session or any other day mutually agree upon. But we've gone 99% of this. I think the last little bit ought to be done as well. And where staff is certainly anxious to help you go.
I would add that you that work set MPS and anything that we're getting or had time to digest.
Mr. Pates.
I would have to sit. That was the only idea there, and possibly take more than one. I certainly have no problem if everybody wants to sit through it. I'm willing to.
I think it's and I actually even propose that we meet 4th.
Yes.
Okay, so 4th, and then additional meeting. Does that?
What time on February?
What time?
7:30. Okay.
7. So then that would be a work session for your 4th at 7:30. And say this for the 11th.
Yes.
Okay. Wednesday, February 4th.
Make that time well spent. These meetings would be devoted exclusively portion from staff before the 4th on that?
Yeah. This is my expectation for the staff, is that we would get the goals portion that of the document by the 4th, maybe by the end of this week. Is that
Easily.
okay?
It's not so much a matter of where they are as what's in them.
And that we would be able to leading up to this meeting from the Mr. Nelson has received as well.
Right, you have all which we could transmit to you, and if we get any others, we'll transmit those.
Okay.
What are you asking for? I mean, you've received.
But we haven't, and I'm just adding, if anybody else between now and then,
right.
that we could receive those as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so any difficulties with those? 4th is okay.
4th is just a week from now, and of course, I'm just wondering how much basic editing of these ideas that a person has to do.
Well, preface that with the 4th, all we would receive are validated goals.
Right.
The I don't know at the final, well, the finalized document.
Weeks.
That's what I thought.
Thanks
Kind of
first.
depends on how long you with and or the 11th and
Right.
what the nature of the changes are. I mean, a lot of substantial, we're already working on incorporating those would probably remain. Goals are made stronger or
Combined or
combined with the one actively pursue. I mean, that require any substantial. So that, I think tweaking the goals or strength should not upset the whole and I think that's nice to do.
Any additional comments on the comprehensive plan? Mr.
Very
Nelson?
quickly, the goals and objectives really deduced are a mess because we haven't really spent time on them. This evolution is very much needed, and I certainly hard because we have been waiting to do this. As a general plans. Plans are, I think, voted on by bodies of and then it goes to the city council for the same thing. And as we write these things, in the back of our minds that, well, Jim's not going to go for that, or that not going to go for that language, and it's role we seek a certain historic preservation is the best example. Commission about preservation, nor is there a community, and so we dance around a lot. When somebody says, well, we need a little bit more specificity, I'd love to do that, however. So it's kind of the nature, we play with it, but in the end, I think we're able to having, these policies outlined as we can get away with, but also being as necessary to move it along. It is what it is.
Hard part.
Yeah, and thank you for all your efforts.
Mr. Chairman, I had one other question. That is, we talked about an implementation plan, and I was wondering what the status of that is coming, and when would we discuss that?
Plan is going to come out of your initiatives, become your implementation plan.
No. Section, just as we have in the current contract, we have a chapter on implementation and one on monitoring. I thought the idea that we would produce the chart that was done last time was actually pretty good. I mean, a lot of things on it. That you list your initiatives, how are you going to implement them, and some generalized time frame. I think that would still be very.
But it is your initiatives. Your action in the 2000 plan is word for word your.
Yeah, but there was actually accomplished
objectives and initiatives, and then that will become.
Yeah, that's certainly something that we can detail as we have these work sessions to what you're.
I would say that, as we've discussed earlier, the follow-up area plan by members of the public be the implementation plan for many of the goals as Mr. issues are of a citywide basis, it strikes me that perhaps allow the city council to have goals and objectives and policies, and they have sort of weighed in on it. Then subsequent step to that would be identifying how we would implement the future, as sort of as an addition, an addendum, if you will, so that once the council and once on the area plans that about which of these goals and objectives are truly only citywide as opposed to within each area plan. And that can be part of the discussion in our work sessions here for the next couple times too, of how really the area plans as I are the implement. I to this whole process still. When I first read through that list, I was a little taken aback of, number one, it was a very so long as to be frankly intimidating, and to think that any that could achieve a reasonable period of time was, and commission work, twice a, multiple in the normal work year. So I think that might be appropriate to a certain extent. We need to have the consent put from council, and then the commission can suggest some prioritization as well, and that could be part of the goal.
Mr. Pates?
Sure. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I would hate for us to adopt a comp plan that didn't have any implementation process or schedule as part of it. It seems good sense for the citywide in nature, and send that with the plan to the council. They'll be more than happy to tinker with it, but I think they would look to us for priorities on those things that things can be implemented.
I think each of those can be identified and